Hey guys, welcome back to the TheGamerShelter. I'm Dan, and I know it's kind of weird after all this time that I'm coming back and that this like 2-hour video of me talking about horror movies is what's going on. But basically, it's October. I've been watching a lot of horror movies to kind of fill all the holes in my horror movie catalog. And I wanted to talk about them because that's what I do. I talk about opinions and try to have intelligent conversations about art and stuff like that. There will be hopefully another video coming soon ish about what I want to actually do with the channel, like actually starting to upload again after like what 4 or 5 years. But life has been crazy and a lot of things have changed. I am going to be hopefully changing jobs soon. I'm going to be changing apartments soon. My divorce is finally getting finalized after years. And so just a lot of things are going on. And so I want to work on this again because I'm going to have time, and hopefully in the new apartment I'll have space. Right now I'm in a very tiny room. Everything is very blocked off right now, but I got the green screen working. And I want to talk about horror movies. If you want to skip all this, there'll be time codes. This is just Dan ranting. If you're brand new to this channel and you just wanted to watch a guy talk about some horror movies, feel free to click. I'm not expecting you to want to get to know me right now. But the TheGamerShelter has been on ice for a long time, and that saddens me. And I'm hoping that I can find the time and willingness and everything to start bringing it back. You know, I still have... I mean, you know, I know how YouTube works with dead subscribers and everything, but this channel does still have like somewhere around 5,000 subscribers that I vanished on. I did, you know, send a link to the other channel I was working on and everything, but now that that's done, I am back here. So, couple things. I am ranking every horror movie I've seen. Now the caveat there, this is not every horror movie I've seen. Of course, this list would be insanely long. But I basically eliminated movies that I just don't remember enough to care. Also, if a movie does not feel like a horror movie to me, then I did not include it. I'm trying to think of like an example off the top of my head. Oh, Shaun of the Dead is a movie that's listed as a horror movie on a lot of sites, and I got rid of that instantly. That's a comedy movie. To me, sure, it has some horror elements, but it's not worth ranking on a horror movie list to me. So there's going to be some holes. The other thing is I haven't seen every movie in the world. So these movies right here, I didn't have time to watch. Two that I'll point out really quick for anyone listening to a super long video and not watching it. I have not watched Psycho yet, and I have not watched Candyman, the original, yet. Those are two classics. I tried, but they're not on any of the streaming services I have access to. And I wasn't going to pay for them in the middle of trying to watch what turned out to be 86 movies, I think I'm going to be ranking here. Actually, no, it's like 83, and you'll see why later. But yeah, it's not every single one, and also there'll be no sequels here. This is purely original films. Hopefully I'll get another video out for sequels. Because again, this video would be 80 million hours long, and also it's just interesting to do that. I probably won't have the sequel one out in time for Halloween. We'll see. But it is hard to find time for those kind of things. You'll get a kind of an insight to my mind and how I work with movie stuff. I tend to like psychological thrillers. I tend to like character dramas. And those in the middle of horror movies, I think, is what makes the best horror movies. If you just have a really gory mess, I am completely uninterested. And we will see as we go on the list how that works. And I think you might get more of an insight into how I kind of work. Also, I tend to think that a lot of classic movies don't actually hold up if you look at them without your rose-tinted glasses on. Older movies tend to not have great dubbing, which instantly takes me out, or, you know, just audio in general, honestly. They tend to have terrible endings where, like, the movie will just cut to credits and you're like, hold on, we were in the middle of a scene. You'll hear me talk about that a little bit. And they tend to just like not care about characters, which again is what I care about. You know, when you watch like the original Friday the 13th, who are these characters?
And Kevin Bacon.
Who cares, you know? And that's what I care about. So we'll get into that more. But yeah, I think that's all I currently have to say. I'll think of more kind of rules and stuff as we get going. But I just want to talk about movies. So let's go into this. I have about 83 movies here going, and they should be in release date order for a couple reasons. First of all, it's just easy to organize them that way. I think it looks nice and is easy to talk about. Also, I'm interested in seeing a bell curve happen to where if you ask people how quality of movies works, it's movies are great, you know, the classics, the old ones are great, and then movies kind of suck, and then recency bias comes back and they're great again. And so I'm interested in seeing how that works out with this. So we will see. So I'm ready to upset people. Please, if you have any opinions on movies that I don't list here, meaning I probably haven't seen them and I should watch them, let me know. I've been trying. There are a lot of movies on this list that I have watched just in the last 2 weeks because I hadn't seen them before and I wanted to be able to talk about them. And yeah, just let me know what you guys think about my horrible opinions, because that is how this works. So without further ado, let's start talking about these movies. The Exorcist. I have all these release dates and stuff written down, but I don't think for the most part it's going to matter. So The Exorcist. There's not too much to talk about this one, and I don't want this video to be super long, so I'm going to try to cut my thoughts down a little bit. But what I will say is this is one that I watched for the first time in the last 2 weeks, which is crazy. I know, I'm in my 30s, and I just watched The Exorcist for the first time. And again, I go in basically with a, I don't know if low bar is the right term, but a lot of classics I don't think hold up in general. And so I went to The Exorcist. It is a pretty long movie. And I thought it was fantastic. Exorcist completely holds up. So just a couple positives, right? The acting is fantastic. I think the cinematography and stuff for the time the movie came out is really good. Honestly, my biggest positive maybe for the show, which is something I don't hear people talk about a lot, is I love that they took this psychiatric mental illness versus possession kind of thing. A lot of the movie is them talking about whether this is an actual possession or whether this is a mental illness. And I just thought that was really interesting to do that. I think they could have gone a little bit more in that kind of being the message of the movie, and it's not. But it was interesting to do. A couple of the negatives is I think the effects don't hold up all that much. The green puke and stuff looks really cheesy when you watch the movie in HD. I mean, again, though, a lot of the blood and the demon face stuff do hold up, so it's not all the effects, but just some of the effects don't hold up. And also, evidently, reading online, I'm in the minority here, but the opening 10 minutes in the desert felt useless. I literally it showed that scene and I was just watching. I was like, what is happening? And then it cuts the actual movie and stuff happens, and it just felt like you could cut that out of the movie and it didn't change anything. All it's supposed to show, I guess, is that the father has some kind of relationship with the Pazuzu thing. I don't know. It felt like it was useless. Just have a scene of him sitting in a church and him talking to someone, at the beginning, just to introduce the character, and then cut to the city. And I don't know. I'm sure I'll get yelled at for that, but I just don't think it matters. I talked way too much. Exorcism, though, is going to go in awesome, which I will explain the tiers really quick. The middle four, actually, I'll say the bottom 5 are the actual tier listing. You have awesome, pretty good, perfectly average, it sucks, and yikers, which is my brother's word. If he winds up seeing this, he will yell at me if I don't give him credit. Yikers is what my family calls just the worst thing in the world. When something is the worst thing ever, you go yikers. And then the top tier one is so good. And almost nothing is going to go up there, probably. That is perfect. I think everyone should watch it. That is the definition of a perfect classic movie to me. My hopes is that very little is in so good and that nothing is in yikers, but we'll see as we talk more about it. So Exorcist, it's awesome. I would recommend it honestly to most people, but it doesn't have the same lasting impression on me as some of the other movies that we'll go into. Okay. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This movie sucks. I don't get it. I don't get the love for it. This is one that I watched recently. So again, I'm watching these with just my modern eyes, trying to actually judge the movie in its own merit. Is it a good movie? Was it a good movie, 50 years ago or whatever? Like, is it a good movie? The characters are unlikable. The audio quality and soundscape is not good. I don't think the cinematography is very good. Once you get to the dinner scene, I was like, this is interesting. Okay, this is really good acting. This is interesting. I like this. And then it just gets a little bit repetitive. Excuse me with that. And I don't know, it just it keeps doing the weird cut super close to her eyes, cut back. It just wasn't interesting to me at all. And then the ending of the movie happens and the famous chainsaw dance thing. It's just not a great movie. And I think anyone who says this is a great movie might be some red glasses going on. That's all I'm saying. Jaws. I'm sorry, guys. It's not going in so good. I'll tell you that right now. Oh, God, I'm going to get hated no matter where I put this, but I'm going to drop it down to pretty good, which I know is blasphemy. Jaws is a good movie. I'm not trying to insult it at all. Again, it's pretty good. I think that its pacing isn't incredible, in my opinion. And I'm also just not into monster movies, which I don't even know if that's really going to come up on this very much. But I'm just not really into monster movies that much. Godzilla and King Kong and Jaws. It's a good movie. The speech with the black eyes like a doll's eyes is great. The ending is great. And obviously the theme song is great. I just think it has some pacing issues, and I think that the story of a shark is not interesting to me. So it's a good movie. I would recommend it to people for sure. It's Jaws. Pretty much everyone has seen it. I'm going to move on. Halloween, the original, is maybe my favorite horror movie of all time. It is so good. And I think everyone should watch this movie for sure. The main reason I like it, again, this is me coming at it. I could see people saying that it's a bit slow and boring. I've seen that argument before, and I'm like, I guess. I don't think so, but I guess I can see it. But the thing for me is, this is a horror movie that came out, I don't remember. I don't have the dates in front of me right now. 79. I don't know. That's Alien, isn't it? So I don't know. It's somewhere around there. I don't know. But this is a movie that came out when horror movies were not shot to be like art. They were shot to be, look at the naked person get stabbed. That's kind of like what it feels like. And Halloween's cinematography and directing is so good that I think that I don't even recommend it to horror fans. I recommend it to people who just want to watch cinema happen. Watch true artists create something that will last forever. I mean, the artistic camera moves in that movie. I love when you get the camera and Michael just stepping in front of it and blocking half the camera. It's such a good shot. Obviously, the theme song I think is probably the best theme song ever designed. And it's so good in this movie for when you really up that tension and that fear and that dread, perhaps, is the better word. Seriously, the cinematography and directing are so iconic that I think the best scene in the 2018? I don't remember. The first one of the newest trilogy of Halloween, the best scene in it is when we get a recreation of the original where the camera's just sitting there and then Michael steps in front of it, the theme song starts, and he just starts walking, and you have a camera just follow Michael as he walks through the house, finds a weapon, and murders someone. It's just like a recreation from shots from the first and kind of second movie. And that shows you the art that was put into this movie, is how the best part of the newer movies is when they try to reenact just a style, not a scene, not let's just remake the same scene with modern stuff and make it cool, but try to show the style of the original. So yeah, again, Halloween, I think it is my favorite horror movie of all time. And just the character of Michael Myers, the design, the music, the art behind that film is why, to me. Alien is awesome. It is my favorite in the Alien franchise, but I don't think it's so good. I think it's great. Again, it's awesome. I think that the character, God, I can remember like everyone's name right now. It's Brett, it's Palmer, it's Dallas, it's Ripley, it's Kane, and it's the other character. The one that I can't remember is the one I'm trying to think of right now. That character like tanks every scene that they're in. They are, I don't think their acting is that great, but also it's not necessarily their fault. I just think the way the character is written to just always be whining and complaining is so annoying. I hate it. That is usually a big complaint I have in movies, is where you have a bunch of professionals not acting professional, like something you hear about Prometheus and Covenant a lot, right? Is you have these people whose entire job it is to go to other planets where there might be alien life and stuff, and they find alien life and they freak out and panic and kill themselves. It's just not very realistic. It really takes me out of it. This one is somewhat understandable since they're just like tow truck drivers basically, but again, it just takes me out. I don't like that the character literally gets Dallas killed. The character literally gets is it Palmer killed? The engineer. I can't, isn't it Brett and Palmer? I don't remember right now, but she gets him killed. Like she does everything she can to ruin the movie. So it's, other than that, though, I think it's a perfectly paced movie. The effects are incredible. Even the stuff with the, like, like everyone laughs at doesn't bother me. If it's fine for the time and everything. I still think the creature's horrifying, and it's just a really good movie, and I don't think anyone's going to argue with that. Sorry, this is not in so good. The original Amityville Horror, it's not good. I'll tell you that. Does it suck? I don't think so. I'm gonna put it in perfectly average. I found it boring. Is the biggest problem. I think the actors do a good job. I think the story is okay, interesting. It's a very stereotypical haunted house kind of thing. It even has the like, this house was built on like ancient burial grounds kind of thing going on. And again, I don't think there's too much to say about it. It's kind of boring. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Friday the 13th, perfectly average film. People are going to hate me for this. I watched this one for the first time recently. I've seen some Friday the 13th. I've never seen the original. I thought I was going to hate it. So the fact that it's in perfectly average is actually impressive to me. The positives that bring it up from to perfectly average to me is I think it's actually not directed terribly like some of them are. I do like the twist at the end with Pamela Voorhees and the acting of the killer mommy killer. It's good. It's well acted. The fight scene's not great, but that's whatever. And one of the things that I wasn't expecting going back and watching this that I actually really liked, and it turns out is kind of a thing in Friday the 13th movies that I've never noticed, is I like that the characters are dying and no one is realizing that they're dying. Like everyone is dying like alone, and no one is like freaking out and going to search for them because they've only been missing a couple hours and they were like over there working on the archery range. It's perfectly fine that they're not back yet. So like literally no one even knows that anyone's getting killed until like the last two people are alive. And I thought that was interesting and different. Usually in modern horror movies, there's like someone gets murdered, someone discovers the body, and then the next hour and a half of the film is everyone freaking out and running away from the killer who's chasing them. And I liked this take on killing everyone secretively. I thought that was interesting. So yeah, overall though, it's not a very interesting movie to me. It's like the most stereotypical thing you can have, which again, it came out forever ago. I get that, but I'm watching it with modern eyes. Does it hold up? Is it actually a good movie, or was it just a good movie all those years ago? I think it's perfectly average. It's fine. It's okay. The Shining. This one is actually hard because it is going to be awesome or so good, and I think I'm going to put it in awesome. Again, I think that it just doesn't have that same impact on me of me wanting to recommend it to every single person ever, but it is really good. Jack Nicholson hits it out of the park with this role. I love the let's see, what is it? It's Wendy, darling, light of my life, I'm not gonna hurt you. You didn't let me finish my sentence. What I said was, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in. It's such a good scene. That entire scene is so good. But it's not just that. It's the scenes of the camera slowly zooming in on a window as Jack Nicholson is just like he's just insane. He's lost his mind. And then also, every time I watch a movie, I guess not every time, most of the time when I watch a movie, I spend the next few hours afterwards just researching behind the scenes stuff. I really like learning about the making of stuff, especially right after witnessing it and putting that puzzle together in my own head. And all the insane stuff with The Shining is fascinating. Really learning all the art that went into every shot of that movie. And I'm not even talking about any of the conspiracy theory stuff, but just all the art that went into that movie of every frame. I know that's the classic thing about the director, but it's just a very well-made movie. For sure, it's very good. It's very quotable. It's Red Rum. It's very good. Not one of my most iconic things in my own personal life. Oh, can we skip this next one? An American Werewolf in London. I am so close to putting this in It Sucks, guys, and I'm going to put it in perfectly average, but I do not think this movie holds up at all. I think that it has a really good transformation scene that even then I think it's not like the greatest thing ever when you watch it today. Like, I don't think it's like a transformation that stands the test of time, for instance. It is very clearly like plastic and rubber being pulled over like an animatronic. It's very obvious. And I just know that people talk about how it's like the best transformation ever, and I guess it might be by default, but like I don't think that it necessarily holds up. And then let's get that out of the way, because I know everyone's gonna yell at me because it's the best transformation ever. Let's literally watch the movie and take the transformation scene out. I don't think it's a very good movie. I think the main actor does a really good job. But at the end of the day, the story is just two friends get attacked by an animal. The one friend dies. And then the guy in the hospital instantly falls in love with the nurse, and she falls in love with him instantly, which I just hate when relationships are rushed like that. Like, it's not just like, oh no, it's just like, one night stand. No, they like love each other. It's so rushed. And then he kills people. And then like once he finds out, he's gonna like kill himself because all the ghosts are telling him to kill himself, and then he transforms again, and then gets shot, dies, in the movie ends. It's like what is this story? I did not like the ending of this movie at all. I did not like the overall story. The transformation was cool, but I do not think it deserves the insane amount of praise it still gets today. In the time, it was incredible, I'm sure. But I don't know. I think that you can. I think there are cooler ideas of transformations that I just wish were practical. I think that this one gets hyped up because it's practical, even though the idea is just like his bones stretch into the werewolf thing, and that's fine. I think, I'm going to get hated for this, I think if they had done the Van Helsing werewolf transformations practical, or at least mostly practical, I think it would be regarded as the best transformation ever. I love both ideas. When they turn into a werewolf, that you rip your skin off to reveal the beast within is so cool and clever. And then when they turn back into human form, all their hair just peels off of them to reveal the human underneath. I think both ideas are very cool and artistic. It's just that they were fully CG, so people don't like them. And it's in a movie that people in general don't like. But anyway, American Werewolf in London is fine. I'm going to get hated on for that. I don't think it deserves it. The Evil Dead. This is the first one, mind you, and I am going to put it... it's going in the middle, as you can see. Sorry for spoilers. Man, I think I'm going with perfectly average here. You will find out in a future video how much I like the second one. I love it. But I watched all 3 of them last year for the first time in a row. And this was obviously the first one I watched. And after I was done with it, I was like, oh no, I'm going to hate these. Because I did not think it was great. Again, this is my definition of... I don't think older movies hold up that well. And again, this is like an independent, super low budget type of film. So I get it. But that doesn't, just like how you guys are going to get mad at me for hating on a movie just because it's like low budget and old, you also can't say a movie's amazing just because it was low budget and old. It has to be able to stand up to the test of time. And I don't think the first Evil Dead does. I think that the quality of the film, like the audio and video quality of the film, are so rough, even on like some of the more remastered versions I've seen, that I just think it's hard to watch sometimes. And then the acting is okay. It's very weird watching Bruce Campbell in the first one, and he's just like straight man, and then you watch him in the second one, and he's like crazy comedic straight man, and then like the straight man, obviously is what I mean. And then you watch the third one where he's like a comic book character. It's so weird to see that character transformation. So yeah, this one, it's fine. I can't wait to talk about the second one because I think the second one's incredible and it revitalized the entire franchise for me after watching this one. The Thing, Let the Hate Train Begin. It's awesome. It is not one of my favorites of all time like it is most people, and that's probably going to get me some hate, but again, the movie's fantastic. For some reason, I just don't care about like the world. And again, here's the thing, right? The characters. I don't think that character writing The Thing is that interesting. You love McCready. Everyone loves McCready. And I would even say that I love the... sorry if you guys can hear that. Someone decided to start mowing the lawn, but there's nothing I can do about that. The like captain of the place. I can't think of his name right now, but yeah, the guy playing the captain with the pistol, who is the guy who's like, I know this is a tense moment, but at some point, can you let us off this fucking couch? Like when he has that freak out moment. I like that character quite a bit, but all the other characters are throwaway. I just don't care about them, and that is what I need, especially in a movie like this where it's just a group of people in one location, basically, dealing with something. Those are my favorite, have the potential to be my favorite types of movies. There's a movie called Unknown, that you've probably never heard of, insert joke here, starring Jim Caviezel, and it's just a bunch of people wake up in a warehouse with no memory of who they are. And the movie is just, they have to figure out who they are, and they can't leave the warehouse because it's like, I think they're locked in, I can't exactly remember. Those types of movies are fascinating to me. Again, psychological kind of thriller, who's who can I trust, those kind of things. But in order to make me care about those, you have to make the characters engaging and fantastic, and I think that is literally the one spot where The Thing kind of dips. It's a fantastic monster movie. It has great effects. It has a pretty good overall story. The lore is awesome. Most of the characters are bland, and that is unfortunate, and so that is why I cannot put it into so good, but it is awesome, and I think pretty much everyone should watch The Thing. Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, is a perfectly average film. Ugh. I'm sorry, guys. I know that this is a lot of people's favorite movie, especially people I've been watching on YouTube lately while I've been like really getting into the spirit and the mood of horror movies. I literally have notes on this one because I think I'm going to get hated on. So some positives for the movie overall. First of all, the lore, the killer in your dreams thing, it's like one of the greatest ideas ever made. I can't argue that. The fact that the theme song sounds like a child's lullaby is super awesome and thematic, and I love it. I genuinely love it. Let's see. Oh yeah, and then the Freddy's lullaby, the 1, 2 Freddy's coming for you, is it's fantastic. It's creepy. I remember hearing that, when I was younger, because I have seen a few of the Friday or the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I've seen the first one, I've seen the third one, I've seen Freddy vs. Jason, I've seen the remake, and I've seen Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Is that what it's called? I've seen those. I might have seen the fourth one, but I don't know. I watched the third one, and I might have watched the fourth one with it, but regardless. The design of Freddy Krueger and everything is iconic. The sweater, the hat, the burnt face, the claw, of course, it's all great. But I have to go into some negatives, okay? First of all, when I was watching the movie, probably rewatching, I don't remember if I watched it before, but it kind of felt like a first watch, but I can't remember. When I was watching the movie, first of all, what are the rules of this universe? I don't understand it. I think the remake explains the rules a lot better, which I know, sorry. I know that the remake is awful. But it's just a couple things that I wrote down. Freddy at one point later in the movie is messing with the phone. He calls Nancy, and he has the famous scene where the phone becomes his mouth and he like licks her and stuff, and she's awake during that. And I don't remember at any point in the movie them explaining what the remake explains with like the micro naps and stuff, which is a realistic thing. It makes perfect sense. I don't remember them explaining that in the original. So the movie just randomly shows Freddy interacting with the real world, and I don't understand that scene. Nancy at one point while she's dreaming goes to the prison and sees Freddy messing with Rod. It never explains anything else like that, but that is fascinating to me. If the way that works is they're all brought into the same dream world where they can literally see each other get killed if they were there, if they were at the right place at the right time, they could see each other get killed. That's fascinating. It obviously could just be Freddy showing her, a fake image of Rod and him messing with him, of course. But it doesn't really explain which one it is. So that's fine. And then obviously it's a movie, there's inconsistencies, blah, blah, blah. Every movie has it. But there's just so many inconsistencies with how the real world can interact. Like people will wake up with cut shirts. She obviously takes Freddy's hat at one point. It's an iconic thing. So like you can interact with the dream and stuff like that. But then in the same shot that Freddy like cuts people's shirts, that like they wake up with ripped shirts, he'll like jump out of mirrors and the mirrors will shatter, but then when they wake up the mirrors aren't shattered. So it's like, what does get interacted with in the dream world and what doesn't? Like, I just think the rules are kind of all over the place. It was the first movie. That's fine. People are going to say they, clear some of that stuff up later and fix it. That's fine, but I'm not judging this movie off of how the franchise goes. I'm judging this movie as a movie. And I think it doesn't do a great job explaining the rules and everything like that. There's, like, no iconic lines in this movie. Like, I think the best line in the movie is probably when she says, like, oh my God, or God help me, and he says, this is God, and he like holds his claw up. That's an okay line, but stay with me here. The remake has some incredible iconic lines, to me at least. And again, it's not like it was the first Freddy movie I saw. I did watch it, and my family still says sometimes to each other why are you screaming? I haven't even cut you yet. Like, that is such a good line. It is, I think it's probably my favorite Freddy line ever out of all of them. He also has that line, I literally wrote it down, I think, where, I didn't write it down. I probably wrote it down later for the remake because I said I won't have sequels in here. I will have remakes because they're their own universe. But he says, like, did you know when the heart stops beating, the brain can function for well over 7 minutes? So that gives us 6 more minutes to play. That is such a good line. And I just think that for being such an iconic movie and killer, there's no iconic lines in this movie. That's all I'm saying. And then there's just a lot of the ending that sucks. I think even fans of the movie can say that the ending with the window and the car sucks. It's awful. It's so tacked on. But not just that, the weird mother death scene where Freddy like jumps on her and grabs her, and then like she gets pulled, or she's a skeleton when they remove the blanket, and then she like soaks into the bed. Like, what is happening? What is the rule? What are the rules of this universe? And then also there's the scene where there's like windows breaking and stuff in the house, and Nancy's banging on it. She's like, help me, and it cuts to the cop who's standing in the yard, and he literally says, maybe I better go tell the lieutenant. It's so stupid. So I had to rant on that one because people are going to hate me for ranking it so low, but I don't think the first one holds up very well, especially when compared to something like Halloween. To me, there's just no comparison to how well made the movie is. You can like Freddy Krueger more than Michael Myers. I can't argue that at all. That's fine. That's awesome. Freddy Krueger's incredible. I don't think the first movie is very good. It is perfectly average. Terminator. I do count this as a horror movie. I think it is horror action, and it almost didn't make my list, but I think that the fact that it feels like a slasher movie, like if you just took the Terminator out of this movie and put Michael Myers in, I think the movie still works in general, like the plot of the movie. And so I counted it, and that was mainly, oops, I just dragged the wrong one. And that was mainly just so that I could put it on the list. I don't honestly know which one it is. Again, I don't want a lot of movies in so good because they are the iconic, like, best of the best to me. So I'm going to put it in awesome. It is my favorite of the franchise. Don't get me wrong. Terminator 2 is incredible. I almost called it Terminators just because that's like what movies do nowadays. But Terminator 2 Judgment Day is incredible. I would probably give it the same rating as the first movie. Like, it would go in awesome as well for sure. But Terminator 1 is the preferred movie to me. I always prefer the slower horror kind of thing to the over the top action movie. Like, I prefer Terminator 2, and I prefer Alien to Aliens. But literally all four of those movies would go in awesome. So, take it with a grain of salt if you wish. Okay, Fright Night. I just watched this one for the first time last night, and I gotta say, yeah, this movie is so good. This is one of my new favorite horror movies ever. I love this movie. I have been recommending it to everyone that I've talked to. It is, the word that I will keep using is charming. This movie is charming. I was smiling the entire time I was watching, and I noticed that I was sitting there just like, why am I still smiling? Like, it is well written, well acted. The story's interesting. Peter Vincent is one of my favorite characters, like, of all time. I love the idea of Peter Vincent. I think that's his name, right? Peter Vincent? Sounds right. But yeah, Fright Night is so good. Everyone should watch it. Just in case, like, my family is watching these, I should give some basic plot breakdowns to the ones that I know they haven't seen. Fright Night is a movie. It was remade recently, and the remake is fine. It's not nearly as good as the original because of the charming aspect. But the Fright Night is basically a guy, a new neighbor moves in next to a guy's house, and the guy starts seeing some suspicious stuff, and he starts thinking his neighbor is a vampire. And during the investigation, he teams up with Peter Vincent, who is like a classic TV show host. Like, the guy, he like climbs out of a coffin and he's like, tonight on Fright Night we are going to watch this movie starring me. He's like an actor who does like intros, kind of like a Tales from the Crypt and stuff like that. And that guy is an actor. He's not really a believer, and he slowly becomes a believer over the movie of the kid convincing him his neighbor's a vampire. And it's about them versus the vampire neighbor. It's fantastic. It's so good. I loved this movie. I literally want to watch it again right now. I love when a classic movie from, that long ago can not only hold up, but is actually better than modern movies. I think that is said a lot when it's not true, and this one is, in my opinion, of course. The Fly. I watched this one very recently for the first time as well, and I'm gonna put it in awesome. Actually, I wasn't sure what I was gonna think about this, and The Fly completely holds up. The effects are great. The story is interesting. The acting is great. I mean, Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis, right? Makes perfect sense. So yeah, The only negative I have for this movie is the character arc of the ex-boyfriend is awful. Like, it's disturbingly bad. He's like a stalker. He's a creep. He's an absolute weirdo. He like threatens to like have the girl's job and then like tries to get her to sleep with him and like all this awful stuff. And then at the end of the movie, he winds up like being the hero. And you're sitting there and you're like, I'm not voting for this guy. What are you talking about? He's awful. So that plotline is very weird and off-putting to me, but the rest of the movie is fantastic. Also, while I was watching this movie, he has the one girl in his apartment, and he's like, you're gonna get in the pod, and she says, no, I'm afraid. And he says, don't be afraid. And Gina Davis walks in and she says, no, be afraid, be very afraid. And I was like, is that the origin of that quote? That is such an iconic quote, and I had no idea it was from this. So I literally paused in the movie, rewound it, listened to it again, paused the movie, got on Google, and was like, is that the origin of that quote? So yeah, be afraid, be very afraid is from The Fly. Great movie. Watch it if you have the chance. Hellraiser. This is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It is probably, I'm not actually like organizing these right now, but if I was going to organize them, it would probably go like that. I'll just organize my so goods because otherwise this will take forever. But I love Hellraiser, and I think I get really annoyed when I hear people talk about it in certain ways. Like, if you don't like it, obviously that's fine. But one thing I hear a lot that really annoys me is the problem with the Hellraiser movies is what the fans want is Cenobites, and they keep not giving us Cenobites, and I just literally can't disagree more with that. I think the idea they're trying to get across might be correct, because sometimes I'll hear those same people then say the first movie, did it best, where they only come in at the end, but it was like meaningful and blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, so you're not actually saying you just want a movie of Cenobites. Like, the reason the first Hellraiser is so good is because of what I kind of talked about in the intro. It is a character study. It is a character drama, a movie of love and passion and lust and regret in the middle of a horror movie. And it does it perfectly. The characters, the Julia, Frank, Kirsten, right? Is it Kirsten or Kristen? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. I think it's Kirsten. But the Julia and Frank thing, and the dad, whose name I genuinely can't remember, that story is so well written and so well acted. And Frank, I don't want to spoil the movie too much, because even though it's super old, I still know most of my family. I don't know if any of my family has seen it, and I know a lot of people who haven't seen it. And when I watched this movie like last year for the first time, it surprised me. It's like a 30-year-old movie at least. And, I've even seen trailers for it and everything. I think I watched a trailer for it before watching the movie. And yet still the main plot of the movie was like a plot twist surprise to me. I had no idea I thought the movie was just going to be Cenobites show up, you're in hell, and they torture you. And that's not what it's about. The actual story here is fantastic. And then the Cenobites show up at the end, and they're awesome and iconic. And the box, you opened it, we came. It's iconic. But I think that what Hellraiser does best is having Hellraiser is about passion, lust, and regret. There's another word I'm looking for here. Curiosity. Passion, lust, and curiosity. And regret. And I think Hellraiser is best when you have a movie that is a story of that mixed in with the lament configuration. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but again, the first movie did it best. This beautiful, well done story with the lament configuration just being this horrifying thing that's kind of the catalyst of the story and also kind of an endpoint. I don't know. Hellraiser's fantastic, and I think more people should give it a chance and watch it for what it is and not just think it's a body horror gore fest, because I don't think it is. There actually isn't that much body. The main thing is body horror, but it's not like gratuitous. It is meaningful. There is a reason that stuff is in the story, and it's so well done. So yes, Hellraiser is so good, and I think more people should give it a chance. Silence of the Lambs is awesome. I don't think there's too much to say about it. It's not one of my favorite movies of all time, but it's very well written, very well acted, very well directed. It's really good. I really like Red Dragon as well. We'll talk about that maybe in a later video, but I don't want to go on too much of a tangent because I'm not too passionate about this one, but it is an awesome movie for sure. In the Mouth of Madness. This one would be in So Good. But unfortunately a couple things hold it back, and I'll actually go into it a little bit. So I actually think this movie could use a remake. You know what I'm saying? The issues with this movie is that the audio quality is awful. Like, it is hard to hear things sometimes through like the low quality of audio. And I don't mean like, I just mean it's balanced poorly. There's like staticky kind of sounds you can hear, like if you really listen to it like with headphones and stuff on. Some of the dubbing is not good. I watched this movie and I loved it, but it was really hard to get through sometimes. And at the end of it, I was just like, man, I would love a remake of this movie because I think the story is interesting and fascinating. Unfortunately, we would lose the Sam Neill aspect of it. I do think he's fantastic in it. But I don't know. I think the story is interesting enough and the movie was poorly enough made, or at least modernized. Like, it's possible that someday we'll get a version, or maybe there is a version out there that's like super crisp and like updated. The one that I watched was like an HD remaster thing, and it wasn't good quality, so that hurt it a bit. It's fantastic. It's a Lovecraftian story. I don't want to talk about it too much. It's really good. The scene with the car driving through town, very effective. I liked it. The bike riding stuff is very good, and I'll say this about it. The main idea of most movies like this, which is kind of, is the person insane or not? I love that kind of stuff, which we'll actually talk about in a little while. Scream. Is this even the right one? I think it is. It's just a very modern wallpaper of it. I think I'm going to put it in pretty good. I am not on the Scream hype train, but I do think they're good. I say they, but like really I mean the first one, and then I liked the fifth and sixth one. I don't think any of them are bad, but I also don't think any of them are great. So Scream is pretty good. I'm not into satire that much usually, the self-referential satire kind of stuff. Like a line here and there is fine, but like the entire movie being satire doesn't do it for me usually, so it doesn't get a laugh out of me a lot. So it's pretty good. I love Ghostface as a design. It's such a good design killer. The fact that there's usually multiple killers and that it's the truly trying to do the whodunit kind of thing, it's good. I just don't think it's ever really lived up to the potential of what horror Scream could be, and it always goes for the comedy Scream. Frighteners, man, this one's hard because I want to put this in So Good. Whoops, I accidentally let go. So I guess it's So Good. This was the movie I grew up on. I don't know when it came out, so maybe I was fucking, whoops, sorry, language. Maybe I was like 20 when it came out. I don't remember, but I say I grew up on it. This movie legitimately gave me nightmares after I first saw it. The Grim Reaper with the carving the numbers into people's heads was something, God, I wish I knew when this came out. I could just look it up on my phone because I have the whole list there. But this was something that I Googled years after like seeing the movie, probably on TV, you know, like I saw the movie, and it had such an impression on me that years later I kept Googling like movie with the numbers carved into people's heads, like trying to find it, and I eventually found it and rewatched it, and it was just, man, everything in that movie that has to do with the Grim Reaper with the number carving thing is such a good and creepy idea. It still makes me like, it's still unnerving to me, like that kind of stuff. It's so well done.
Good food, huh?
The rest of the movie is good. I don't think it's as good. The extremely overacted and overdramatic character from, I think that's Jeffrey Combs, right? I don't love it. Again, you start getting to like the weird satire comedy stuff with that, and I just don't love it. It's fine. But the idea of Michael J. Fox, conning people because he can see ghosts and he sets it up, I like the idea. And then the whole where the movie gets really dark with the Busey character and everything, like it's good. And again, I would say the movie is between pretty good and awesome, and then you get the Grim Reaper stuff in there that again to this day affects me, and makes me want to like see more stories like that, with this number card in people's heads, like he can see the order that people are going to die and stuff like that's so interesting. So that bumps Frighteners up to me to so good. And I think most of my family has actually seen that one. Event Horizon is a rough one. It's very much like In the Mouth of Madness, which makes me want to go with awesome. I think I'm going to go with awesome, but this one's rough for me because this is another one where the idea and the cast is incredible. And then you watch the movie and it's like, okay, execution, 7 out of 10 or something. Like it's, I think they fumbled a bit, and I've heard a lot of stories about the like rewriting of this movie and like how it changed and stuff. I'm not an expert on any of that. It's just stuff I've heard. Excuse me, the not sponsor of this video. So, yeah, I wish they had gone further. I really like the idea that I don't actually think is canon. That what happened, because I think what's canon, let me know in the comments. I think what's canon is just that the ship went to another kind of dimension, that's like a hellish type of dimension, and came back, and that's like all the weird stuff. I would find it more interesting if the story focused on, did it actually go to hell? Which I never really get as the feeling from this. Maybe you do, but I've always kind of got it as they just think it's like another dimension. Like it's a dimensional movie, not a hell movie. Excuse me, sorry. And I just think that having the scientists have to come to terms with, is hell real, would be a more interesting version of that story. And also, I just think that you have Sam Neill, Lawrence Fishburne, and Jason Isaacs, 3 of the best actors out there. And I think none of them hit their full potential in this movie. Sam Neill is very hit or miss in this movie. Jason Isaacs isn't really utilized that much, and I think his death is kind of dumb. And then Lawrence Fishburne is not bad. Of the 3, I think he's probably the best utilized, but I don't know. At the end of the day, I think this is a 10 out of 10 movie on paper, and like a 7 out of 10 movie in execution. So I'm still going to put it in awesome. I Know What You Did Last Summer. I'm going to be honest, I barely remember this one. It's not going in pretty good. I don't care that I let go. I don't think it sucks though. So I think I'm going to put it in perfectly average. The idea is interesting. We accidentally kill someone, we dump the body. A year later, the quote and the title is awesome. I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think that's really cool. It's been repeated a lot. I don't think it's like the first thing to ever do it, of course, and I know it was based on like a book. But I think that idea is cool. And then like, oh no, did we not actually kill him and now he's back for revenge? It's okay. I think that the cast is like, I don't remember when this came out, of course, but I think this cast is like the most, late 90s, early 2000s cast ever. And it's funny to me to see those actors. Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah Michelle Gellar, I don't know the other girl, and then Ryan Felipe.
I've heard it both ways, the right way and then yours. I've heard it both ways.
I don't know. They all do a good enough job. The movie's good enough. It's perfectly average. Deep Blue Sea has a pretty close spot in my family. You know, I think I'm gonna put it in pretty good, which is sad because that means it's on the same tier as Jaws. Oh boy, I'm gonna get hate for that. But my family has always had a really good relationship with Deep Blue Sea. We like it a lot, and it's definitely like the annoying little brother to Jaws, but I think you can easily like both. One is the more like slower paced, you know, well directed horror movie, and the other one is like very cheesy. Deep Blue Sea is like the Scream of the shark movies, and it's fun. The iconic scene where Samuel L. Jackson dies is great. The scene at the end that kind of just rips off of Jaws is pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. It's fun. My family likes it. It's pretty good. I think if you haven't seen it, it's worth a shot. The Blair Witch Project doesn't do it for me. I think I'm actually going to put in it sucks. Partly because I don't want Texas Chainsaw to be alone. But partly because it just doesn't do anything for me. I don't hate found footage. And I actually think the acting, for the fact that they were like, I think they were like unknowns. Like this was like almost like a student project. It's like what it felt like. I think the acting, and I heard it was mostly, I don't know about mostly, I heard a lot of it was improv too, where it was just like, okay, like this is what's happening, how would you react to this kind of thing. And I even heard the scene where they get scared in the tent was actually like an unscripted thing where the cameramen and directors stuff just started messing with their tent while they were inside it and they didn't know, and so their freakouts were kind of genuine. I mean, obviously they knew their team was out there somewhere probably, but the initial reaction was probably genuine. But it just doesn't do it for me. I don't think the story is that interesting. I do love marketing campaigns like this where they made it very realistic to the point that like the family was getting like letters from people saying like, you know, we're so sorry like that your daughter went missing and stuff like that. So that kind of stuff is interesting. I love really good viral marketing campaigns. Viral is probably the wrong word there, but yeah, really good marketing campaigns where you have like websites involved and stuff like that is very good. Missing person stuff is interesting. But yeah, the basic story doesn't do anything for me, and the ending doesn't do anything for me. I'll never watch. I've watched it once. I'll never watch it again. I'll say it sucks. Why not? The Haunting I liked a lot when it first came out, and man, do I not like it now. Screw it. I'm gonna put it in it sucks. Yeah, you got an okay cast here. I mean, Liam Neeson heading it is like, how did you go wrong there? But yeah, the story's just not interesting, and the fact that it is a retelling of this story and did it in this way is like sad. And as a matter of fact, I purposely did something just because I wanted to talk about him in the middle of this before we go to ad break. There's no ads. So The Haunting, it sucks. But if I scroll down here, The Haunting, oops, not The Grudge. Oh well, don't know where that goes in the timeline now. The Haunting of Hill House, The Haunting of Bly Manor, and Midnight Mass are all some of the best things ever made. These are TV shows, so they're not technically included on this list. You can ignore them. But because The Haunting showed up, I wanted to talk about these, because I believe The Haunting of Hill House is based on the same book as The Haunting, if I'm remembering correctly, but who cares? Even if not, if you like horror and you have not seen The Haunting of Hill House, I think it is probably the best horror thing in existence. Please watch the show. It is so well done, so well directed, acted, written. The what is it, the broken neck lady or the crooked neck lady or whatever, is one of the most well done story plot throughs I've ever seen. It's so good. Like I said earlier, I prefer The Haunting of Bly Manor personally, but I accept that it's less of a horror and more of like a gothic love story kind of thing in the middle of a horror. But I really connected with the story and the characters there. And Midnight Mass is incredible. It actually might be my favorite. I don't know. I'm gonna order them like this for now. Yeah, watch these three shows. Mike Flanagan knows how to do horror, and I think these three things are three of the best horror things ever done. I think if you're a pure fan of like pure horror, Haunting of Hill House is one of the best things you'll ever see. If you like it that much, because you will, watch the other two. because they're fantastic. So I just wanted to mention those and put them on the list because now we have a lot of so goods. American Psycho is, I'm going to put it in pretty good. Pretty iconic lines. I still to this day will say why don't you get a job? I love that whole speech he gives in the alley so much. And I'll just, like, whenever someone is like complaining about something, I'm just like, why don't you get a job? You're hungry, why don't you get a job? I love that so much. But it's, I don't know, the movie's weird. It's not exactly my kind of thing. The way that it's told with that character and the weird, like, oh yeah, the business card. I don't know. It doesn't exactly do it for me, but it's good. It's pretty good. Final Destination. This one is rough for me because it's between awesome and pretty good. I'm gonna put the first one in awesome, and I will kind of hedge a little bit by saying that it's really I love the idea of Final Destination so much that it moves up this high on the list. This is kind of like In the Mouth of Madness, where the execution is so, like 7 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10 to me. But the idea of people getting a vision, escaping death, and then death hunting them down one by one in the order they were supposed to die in is so cool to me. It is one of my favorite ideas I've ever seen. So yeah, I think that the idea is one of my favorite ideas out there that exist. And I would be okay with like a reboot of this series and really get the lore down and really get the idea down, because I think that the rules are kind of wishy-washy every once in a while. I still laugh with people about the weird toilet water scene in this movie. Like, it is the only time in the franchise, I think, where you actively see something like that happen, where the water like leaks out and causes the problem and then sucks back into the toilet to like hide the evidence. We never see that again in the whole franchise, I don't think. So like getting some of the rules down better, but I think the idea is incredible. I will say too that I think that the John Denver song, the like death song in this movie, kind of like was iconic when I first saw the movie, when it first came out. Like, I remember like thinking about, oh my god, every time that song plays, like, it's such a cool idea, blah blah blah. And then I think it's the third movie that introduces there is someone walking behind you. Like, that's the death song. That is such a better death song to me. Like, when I hear that song, I get shivers. It is so creepy. Like, I'm like, death is watching me right now. Yeah, I think I would be totally down with a remake of this with some better modern filmmaking, get the rules under control here, and change the death song to "There's Someone Walking Behind You," because that song is creepy as hell, man. Do a modern take on it, even where you get like, when you get like "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star," but like in Dead Space it's redone to be like a creepy kid's voice with static. Do like a remake like that of "There's Someone Walking Behind You" or something. Like, I think you have some real potential with this franchise, and I'm gonna say the first one is awesome. I think it's a franchise that really goes downhill fast. But we'll talk about that in a later video, hopefully. Hollow Man, it's pretty good. I don't know, it's fine. It has some creepy moments in it, like genuinely like off-puttingly creepy. I think Kevin Bacon does a fantastic job in the role. Yeah, it's like other than that, there's not much to talk about. There's a better version of this later. What Lies Beneath? It is hard for me to put this in awesome, so I'm going to put it in pretty good, because I think it has some pacing issues and stuff like that, but I purposely included this on this list because I think that most people have never even heard of this movie, and I'm going to spoil it for you, so if you truly don't want to hear it, skip ahead to the next one. But this is perhaps the only movie where Harrison Ford is genuinely the bad guy. And it is awesome. Harrison Ford was my favorite actor for a very long time. I tend to think he kind of phones it in nowadays and like is not the most approachable person when it comes to like his fans. And so that's really hurt that a bit. But for a very long time, he was my favorite actor. And when I saw this movie, I was so happy to see him finally be the bad guy. There are movies out there where he's like, you know, morally corrupt, you know, like, you know, he's like the anti-hero and like stuff like that. But most of the time he is the Captain America Star-Spangled Banner hero. And to see him in this movie where the basic premise is Harrison Ford and his wife, I think it is, are like moving into a house or something like that. Again, I'm sorry, I can't fully remember everything. It's been a very long time since I've seen it. But weird stuff starts happening with like ghostly kind of stuff and weird signs, and the wife starts finding stuff, and it turns out that Harrison Ford's ex-wife was murdered. And through all the stuff that's going on, the wife winds up thinking he might have done it. And when the realization happens and you find out he did do it, and you get Harrison Ford being basically as close to a slasher villain as someone like him can be, where you get the you know, stereotypical iconic scene where, you know, it's like she opens the mirror, when she closes it he's standing right behind her and like you know, attacks stuff. Like, it's good stuff. It's really cool to see Harrison Ford as a bad guy, and I think it's a really underrated, underseen movie. Jeepers Creepers, I'm gonna put it in perfectly average, but it's really close to going, and it sucks to me, I'll be honest. I don't think this movie holds up at all. I get it, people love classics, and there is some good in this movie for sure, which is why I'm not saying it sucks. I think overall, like, the actual directing and cinematography is pretty good. And again, HD remasters help with that kind of stuff. I don't know what the movie looked like when it first came out, but the version I saw was clean, it was crisp, it looked nice, the lighting was good. Justin Long is pretty good. He's usually pretty good. The thing with me, I was watching the movie and I was like, this is gonna annoy people probably, but the first thing for me is the design of the creature sucks. I do not like the look of its face at all. It was not creepy to me. It looked dumb. So that hurt a lot. There are two scenes in the movie where I was like, man, that was so good. Like, I loved it. And that is the first time I literally chuckled. I was like, man, that scene was so good and out of place in this movie to me, is when the cops are following Justin Long and his sister, and the camera is in their car looking backwards, so you just see like the cop car blurring the background, and the car's driving, and you just see a guy go and land on the car, and it's like just blurry in the background. That shot is so well done. Like, I love the directing and everything there. And there's a scene after the creature gets hurt when it like is like limping away, and just the acting and everything that went into that, like, it was such a believable creature limping thing. I liked that look a lot. But overall, it was a very meh movie to me, and everyone says this is by far the best movie in the franchise, so I'm not planning on watching any of the other ones, because I thought this one was fine. So, yeah. The others, I'm going to go in perfectly average. This is a movie with a really cool theme that I don't think took it in an interesting enough place. The basic premise, I'm going to be spoiling movies, by the way. I'm going to have a text thing pop up at the beginning because I don't actually say spoiler alert, but I'll say it now. Spoiler alert for all the movies. The basic premise of us following someone who thinks their house is haunted, and then it turns out they're the ghosts. That's clever. That's good. I don't know how original it is, but that's probably the first time I saw it. I just don't think that they took it far enough and interesting enough, and it does have the very iconic where's my daughter, are you mad, I am your daughter, like that. It's a good scene, it is, but there's not too much to talk about with it. If you've seen it, you probably also think it's fine. 28 Days Later, I actually wanted to rewatch this one for the list, and I wasn't able to, so I'll be honest, I don't remember this movie very well, so unfortunately I'm just gonna drop it in perfectly average for now, because it did not leave a mark on me. I I remember the scene with Cillian Murphy walking in the city, but that's literally all I remember about this movie. So you can just ignore that I rated that one. I'll put it in average for now. The Ring, I'm gonna put it in pretty good, but only for one reason, and this is similar to the Frighteners thing. I think the movie's okay. Its lore is interesting enough and everything. Its effects are pretty good. The thing with The Ring is this is the first movie that I actually remember scaring me. Again, Frighteners evidently did, because I had nightmares about it. Sorry, I have really bad heartburn right now. Yes, so I'm drinking Diet Coke. The scene in The Ring when they turn the chair around, I think it's like literally one of the last scenes in the movie, when they turn the chair around and the guy's face is like all messed up, like genuinely scared me, like terrified me when I first saw it. And my family was very lucky. We watched it together. I literally remember us watching it together on the couch in the living room. And when the movie ended, our phone rang. Talk about a way to make a movie iconic. Like, oh man, my whole family was like, we're not answering that. That's so scary that just happened. So yeah, pure coincidence that helped this movie a bit. Other than those two things, I think it's okay. And so that's why I put it in pretty good. I actually don't have it on here. I forgot to rank the number 23. I think I would count that as a horror movie. And it did a similar thing. It would go in perfectly average probably, just so you know. But the thing with the number 23 is when I finished watching the movie, I think if I remember correctly, that movie ends and Jim Carrey looks at the clock and it's 2:15. It's something like that because it's 23. And when the movie ended and the credits started, I looked and my clock was 2:15. So I stopped watching the movie at 23, which it was very cool. There's been a lot of accidental, coincidental things like that in my life with movies. Okay, Dreamcatcher. I'm actually going to put this in awesome. This was a movie that was very memorable to me growing up. Again, I don't know how old I was when I first saw it, but I still go back and watch scenes from this movie, and it's weird, man. Like, I think you have to really be in a certain mindset for where this movie takes you, especially once the one actor kind of becomes like possessed, and he's like, "Hello, Jonesy, what's the plan for today?" The movie's really weird, man, but it is very effectively creepy at the same time, and it works for me. This is also a movie that almost feels like it's trying to be like jokey satire-y sometimes, but I don't know, there's something about this very strange movie that works for me. So I'm gonna put Dreamcatcher in awesome. I think the cast helps a lot. Probably I love Thomas Jane, and so yeah, seeing him in this. But I mean, you got Morgan Freeman, you got Tom Sizemore, you got the guy from My Name Is Earl. I don't know that actor very well. And who else? You have Donnie Wahlberg. Who's the other friend that I'm forgetting? I don't know. There's another friend I'm forgetting who's also like a big actor, but that's fine. Gothika. I don't think it sucks. Oops. So I'm going to put it in perfectly average. I don't remember this movie very well. I didn't have time to watch this one modern. I like the idea of the movie of the psychiatrist, something happens, all of a sudden they're a patient at their own clinic and no one like remembers that they were a psychiatrist. I like that kind of stuff. Again, psychological thriller, that's what gets me. When you have stuff with like memory stuff, it tends to work on me. Gothika is fine. Halle Berry. So yeah, it's fine. Okay, Identity. Ooh, guys, this one is so close. This one is so close to going in so good, but I'm going to put it in awesome. And this one is another one that kind of will probably get hate for the opposite reason as something like Jaws or The Shining or The Thing, because everyone thinks those movies should be higher. I think most people are going to think Identity should be lower. But similar to the idea of Final Destination, me saying like I think it's one of the coolest ideas that a movie can do. Up there as well is Identity. I'm going to spoil Identity now. I think if you like psychological thrillers, you should watch it without spoilers. So just jump ahead if you don't want to spoil it and add it to your watch list. So I'm going to now spoil Identity. Identity is a bunch of people. They meet up at a hotel. They start dying one by one, and they're trying to figure out which one of them is the killer. Classic whodunit in a hotel. Boring. You do have John Cusack, Ray Liotta. You got some good actors in there. But overall, it seems very stereotypical. Then you get to the end of the movie, and it turns out that what is happening in Identity is there is a psychiatrist who is working with a patient who has what is it, DID, like the thing from Split, where it's someone with multiple personalities, and one of their personalities is a serial killer, like in real life, whenever they kill someone. And basically the court is trying to finally decide whether to put this person on death sentence, kill them, or to release them. And the psychiatrist has basically convinced them that let me try this idea where the whole movie is him having the person act out this scenario in their mind to try to figure out which personality is the serial killer and kill them. So we're watching a whodunit. Meanwhile, the psychiatrist is orchestrating a whodunit inside his patient's head so that they can kill the serial killer identity. And then I won't actually spoil like how it ends because I think that's even, more to go into there. But that's the idea, is this movie is inside a patient's head. What a genius idea for a movie. Like the script writer for this movie, man, just like applause from TheGamerShelter, because that means so much. So yeah, the idea alone of this movie bumps it all the way up to awesome for me. The execution is okay. I don't think this movie deserves all the hate it gets. I think the problem is the first 80% of this movie people think is a really stereotypical murder thing, and then the ending is a kind of stereotypical psychological thing. But I thought that the way they mixed those two things together was fantastic, and Identity is awesome. Dawn of the Dead is pretty good. It's a really fun zombie movie. It was the first time I ever heard any Richard Cheese music. I think that's his name, right? But that movie has the get up, come on, get down with the sickness. It's a guy who takes like music and makes them like 50s versions of the songs. It's a really fun zombie movie. It's not like one of the best things I've ever seen, so it goes in pretty good. Mindhunters, I'm not gonna put it that high, but I'm gonna put it in pretty good. This is the most guilty pleasure-y, I'm trying to say a fake word there, but whatever. This is the most guilty pleasure movie like out there. It is not a good movie, guys, but I love it. This is a whodunit where a bunch of FBI profilers are sent to an island by their boss as like a final test to kind of go through like a game, I don't know, a test to see if they like can graduate to the next level and become full-on FBI profilers. And they start dying one by one, and they're the only people on the island. So who's the killer? That's the basic premise. I really like the premise a lot. I mean, you got LL Cool J, you got Christian Slater, you got Val Kilmer, so I think you don't have the best cast here, but I think they do well with what the script asks them to do. And I just think overall, I like this movie. I think it's very interesting. I think that the killer reveal, for the initial like twist reveal thing is really well done, actually, I think. And then the killer reveal is pretty good. I like the acting in that scene quite a bit. The like realization of, well, I've been caught, kind of thing. So yeah, Mindhunters, if you just want like a fun B movie, I think that is one of the best ones out there, for sure. Saw. I'm going to put it in awesome. I wish I could put it in so good. First of all, I would say Saw is my favorite movie in the Saw franchise. So there, it's only downhill from here. But The first one had the potential to be so good. Again, one of my favorite ideas, someone putting people through morality tests. You have failed to be a good person. Here is your punishment, but I'm giving you a chance to redeem yourself. I love that idea for a horror story and for a killer. I think Jigsaw is a fantastic character. And we can talk about the ending in a bit because it's one of the best endings in frickin' cinema history. And I know that a lot of people think that this happens because of that ending. I don't think so. I have a couple weaknesses for this movie. I mentioned earlier, teased a bit, that I love movies that basically take place in one room, and most of this movie takes place in that bathroom, and it's just two people talking and trying to figure stuff out. It's not all there. You have the cop stuff, and you have the wife at home stuff and everything, but like the main plot of the movie is this room, these two guys. I love stuff like that. I love the morality tale, like I said, stuff like that, the twisted games, the idea of the tape recorder, the voice. It's iconic. There is a board game, Tangent. There is a board game called Betrayal at House on the Hill. It's a fun game. It's not very well balanced, but who cares? It's fun, and it's everyone's on a team until something happens, and usually one person becomes a bad guy, everyone else is on a team, and the rules change, and they're versus each other. And so the whole game, you're trying to like level up, but stay as even as possible because you don't want that guy getting really high level and then becoming the bad guy, you know? So you're kind of working together until you're not. And it's a game based on a bunch of scenarios. There's 50 scenarios in the game. So every time you play, you're probably going to get a different, end game like that. One of the end games is basically Saw. Everyone passes out to gas, wakes up, there's collars around everyone's necks, and then the mission is everyone has to find their keys. And the twist, of course, is that one person's collar is fake, they're actually the bad guy, and they need to try to make sure like no one else survives, I think, which isn't very Saw, but that's, well, I guess it is actually once you get into the sequels, but it's not very Saw. I actually had my brother record the opening paragraph in like kind of an impression of Saw, right? Like, hello explorers, I want to play a game. Like not like an amazing impression, but okay. And then I edited it, in some editing software. I lowered the pitch, I added that kind of radio grain to it, that recorder grain, to it. And it sounds incredible. If I can find it, I'll play like a little clip right here.
Hello explorers, you don't know me, but I know you.
And so I had this whole speech go out, and then we played it, and it was one of the best game experiences ever. So I love the idea of this character, his speech, I want to play a game, all of your life, right? I love it. And the ending twist, sure, we'll just talk about really quick. The ending twist of him standing up, with that music, one of the best theme songs. Like, I think Halloween is the best theme song ever. Saw might be number 2. The Saw theme song is incredible. But that song playing, him standing up, the key to your chains are in the bathtub, and then game over. It's so good. It's such a good ending to a movie. So the negatives. Some of the character stuff isn't super interesting with the cops and stuff. I don't think Donald Glover does a great job. If I'm honest, in the movie. I know he's a good actor overall, but I think in this movie he feels like he phoned it in. Lee Winnell, I'm sorry, bro. If you wind up randomly saying this, you are not a good actor. At least not in this movie. You almost tank the movie, and I understand that this was a very low budget movie, so he probably did it for basically free. They were just like, we need another actor and we can't afford it because our budget is so low, so I'll do it, which is fine. You almost tank this movie alone. Your acting is atrocious in this movie. Cary Elwes gets hated on a lot for this movie, evidently. I think he's perfectly serviceable in this movie. He's better when he's playing like, Robin Hood Men in Tights and stuff, sure, but I think he's perfectly serviceable in this movie. And I don't tend to hear accent slips very much. I know he gets made fun of for an accent slip in this movie quite a bit. I don't tend to hear those, so it doesn't bother me. But yeah, Saw was an incredible start to a very mediocre franchise. So we'll go from there. The Forgotten. I'm going to put this in perfectly average. I don't remember this movie very well. But This has one of the most iconic scenes in movie history to me that a friend of mine and I still just randomly say to each other to this day. The basic premise is a woman's son disappears and no one has any memory that she's ever had a son. Memory stuff, right? Everyone's like, you've never had a son. What are you talking about? And it's her trying to figure out what the hell's happening. And then you get to the end and it's really weird. I'm not going to go too into it, but there's a scene in it where a guy is like talking to her and he's like trying to basically keep the memory suppressed or something like that. Man, it's been a long time. But he's talking to her and it's very clear that he's not getting what he wants, and he's standing there and he goes, wait, I need more time. And he just goes and gets like sucked into the sky at like 1,000 miles an hour. Like it just, I need more time. And it's such a good iconic scene to me. Like my friend and I will just like see each other and be like, I need more time. Yeah, man, I love that scene, and that alone made me want to mention it and put it in Perfectly Average. So we got that. Constantine is barely a horror movie to me, but I got it on here, and I'm gonna put it in pretty good. No, Keanu Reeves is not Constantine at all, and if you watch like the actual like CW version of Constantine, that show's actually pretty good, and that actor does an incredible job. He's played by the guy who voiced and is the model for Edward Kenway from the Assassin's Creed video games. If you've played those games, the actor that plays him is that guy, and he's really good in the role, and the show is pretty good. So, if you forget, though, that this is a John Constantine movie, I think this is a really good, like, man versus evil type of movie. I think his gear in it is really cool. I think that the Into the Light I Command Thee stuff, the Balthazar mirror scene is so iconic to me and my family. That fire, I was born of this, is such a good scene. So yeah, I think this movie is a little underrated, mainly because as a Constantine movie, people find it a bit disappointing, and I understand. I do. I just think I can look past that, and it's a pretty good movie. And the actor whose name I don't know who plays the devil is like iconic. Another really good thing for this movie is I hate Shia LaBeouf. And while I don't think he's great in this movie, he's tolerable, and that is better than most of the time. So I'll give that to him. Hostel. Yikers. Okay. I don't like body horror, which you will all laugh at because I love Hellraiser and I love Saw. But the thing is, the first Saw has barely any body horror in it. It's very subdued. And Hellraiser, again, I think while it has some body horror in it, it is important to the story and really well done to me. Hostel is just people get tortured and it's gross. And I don't... So first of all, the whole Amsterdam, let's go, like... have prostitutes and drugs, that whole theme and lifestyle thing is so uninteresting to me and so just like, I don't know, immature. I just don't get into that idea at all. It's not interesting. Then on top of that, you have just torture porn the movie, basically. I get it. People like the arc the character goes through and getting the revenge at the end and all this stuff, but I just can't do it, guys. This is over the line for me of torture porn. I can't do it. The Amityville Horror remake. Where'd I put the other one? Perfectly Average? I'm actually gonna put this one in It Sucks, I think. I watched the original and I didn't like it because I found it boring. So then the remake, I was like, I'll rewatch that one because I did see it when it came out, but I was like, I'll rewatch that one because I don't remember it. And Ryan Reynolds, was cool. And so let's see. And it blew my mind that I liked the original more because again, I didn't like the original very much. But so this movie took out the boring and added dumb. Like, I was just watching the movie and I'm like, oh my god, this scene is so stupid. And then that scene ends and it goes to the next one. I'm like, oh no, this scene is stupid too. Like, I just couldn't do it. So yeah, not great. If you're gonna watch one of them, watch the original, and still you're not gonna find it that interesting. Silent Hill, I don't think it's great, but I don't hate it, so I'll put it in perfectly average. I have no connection to the video games. I've never played a single Silent Hill video game, so that's going to play a factor in that as well. I don't have any emotional connection to it. The movie's fine. Slither. This is another one that unfortunately I don't remember very well. This one gets really close to the body horror stuff, though, from everything I do remember, and some stuff I looked up to kind of jog my memory. I was like, oh yeah, it's that movie. And again, I just don't do body horror that much. I'll put it in perfectly average. Nathan Fillion is like my hero. So to see him in a movie like this, and the actress in it, I can't remember. Pop up right here. There's her name. She's stunning. But it's just not a movie for me, unfortunately. I'm glad that James Gunn and Nathan Fillion had their fun, but I wish I liked it more. 1408. Man, again, I don't think it sucks, so I'm gonna put it in perfectly average. Interesting idea, execution, meh. I think that John Cusack is not one of my favorite actors, and he tends to hurt movies more than help them for me. Even Identity, he's definitely not the strongest part of, so what you gonna do? 30 Days of Night. Again, I don't think it sucks. I'll put it in perfectly average. When I watch movies, I want good characters in an interesting world, and they have to deal with something. This movie is uninteresting characters in the normal world dealing with stuff. Sorry, but that's 2 out of 3 strikes. I just can't do it. Like, yeah, the scenario is interesting. The actual lore is really cool. It's a good idea. Why wouldn't vampires go to, is it Alaska? I don't remember. Where there's like a period of 30 days of night. Why wouldn't they do that? It makes perfect sense. But unfortunately, I just don't like any of the characters or care about them. And then the ending is so stereotypical with the hero injects himself with the virus so that the monster can fight the monster. It's fine. It's fine. It's interesting enough. The Halloween. These movies were in date order, but unfortunately, my mouse. I need a new one. It's been double clicking and causing a lot of weird stuff lately. So I don't think people are going to agree with me on this one, but I'm actually going to put the Rob Zombie Halloween in pretty good. I didn't love it, and I do think that the newer first Halloween, what is it? I always want to say 2018, but I don't know if that's actually correct. But the first movie in the newest trilogy is much better than the Rob Zombie one. But I am weird in the sense that I am not one of the people that say, oh, now that you've shown us the backstory, it's uninteresting. I've never been that guy. So, like, you know, people complain about Prometheus. Oh, now the alien stuff, like, it was better when it was a mystery. Not to me. I really like learning lore. I like seeing writers have to stretch their writing muscles and give us a well-written story that explains stuff. I like that a lot. And so seeing some of the backstory of Michael and stuff, I don't hate that at all. Some of the directing and cinematography is really good here. Obviously, the theme song is fantastic. The look is really good for the more like gritty looking Michael Myers. It's nowhere near the original. And I tend not to really like Rob Zombie movies. Like, this literally might be my favorite Rob Zombie movie, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I think it gets a little too much hate for what it did, but I definitely don't think it's great. So I'll put it in pretty good. Paranormal Activity. This is the first one, I guess I should say. I don't know. It's fine. It's average. If I think, as far as found footage type of stuff goes, this is a clever idea. You know, okay, my house is like being haunted. We have security cameras everywhere. Yeah, that's fine. The story's fine. The jump at the end thing is fine. The movie's fine, so it goes in perfectly average. I don't really have too much to talk about with that. The Mist. This one's actually rough because I think I'm gonna put it in pretty good. But it is mainly because the ending is incredible. Like, the movie overall, with like, I hate characters like the character in the mall, in The Mist, like the lady who like somehow creates a cult and stuff. Like, I get it. I've never been in this like end of the world scenario, but I don't know. This whole let's all lean on this crazy lady that starts a cult is so stupid. There's a kind of similar thing going on in Midnight Mass that I think is done much better in Midnight Mass. But even in then, I think it's my least favorite part of the show. Like, I don't know, when you get a super religious character that kind of becomes like, I don't know, people look at them like they're the second coming and they build a cult around it. It's always so exaggerated and so poorly done to me. But that ending, guys, I don't even want to talk about it, because if you haven't seen The Mist, watch it and then see the most overhyped ending that I'm giving you ever right now. But it emotionally affects me, which doesn't happen a lot. So yeah. Mirrors. This saddens me, because I think I'm gonna put it in perfectly average. It's leaning towards pretty good, but it is for the same kind of reason as Identity, Final Destination. I have like an obsession with how creepy Mirrors can be, to the point that I like have started writing my own like short story involving it. It's not really a horror thing, but it's just like, I think the potential of Mirrors is so cool and creepy, and like wondering if like there's another dimension through mirror stuff is just a really cool thought experiment to me. And so the idea of this movie is A+ material to me. I also love Kiefer Sutherland. I think he's really cool. I think his best role is probably Phone Booth. Most people probably haven't even seen that one.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny? You hear a phone ring and it could be anybody. But a ringing phone has to be answered, doesn't it?
What?
It's a really good movie. The problem is, again, kind of with the execution here. It's a bit stereotypical with some of its stuff. It does have a very cool, iconic kill in it that is like so good that I think some people, like my sister, won't watch the movie because of that scene. But the point that starts taking out of it for me is when the mirror stuff starts breaking and not exactly making sense. Like, first of all, the movie's called Mirrors, and it's all about this mirror stuff. But then, like, water, starts doing it, which I get it. Water can, like, mirror things, right? But if that's where you're going with the lore, then the movie should be called Reflections, right? Not Mirrors. So I think that once they started getting away from just mirrors and doing any reflection, that's slightly less interesting to me. And then also the mirror starts doing stuff like at one point it spells a word in the mirror. That's too far to me. That's too weird supernaturally and less like dimensional paranormal mirror. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. There's also stuff where the mirror like cracks and then fixes itself. Like, I think at one point, right, he like shoots a mirror and then it fixes itself, and it's just like, that's too far. Again, I think the movie went too far with just everything being possible. So good movie. I'll say average, I guess, just because it was a really cool idea that was squandered, kind of. Drag Me to Hell did not do it for me, to the point I think I'm gonna put in it sucks. Sam Raimi tends to not do it for me in general. Again, I think Evil Dead 2 is great. We'll talk about that in a later video. Army of Darkness is great. And that's basically it. Everything I've seen of Sam Raimi other than that has been okay. Sure, the Spider-Man movies are really good, the first two at least. But I don't know. His style when it comes to like horror tends not to work for me in general. And this movie was a bit bland. I could see it going in perfectly average, but I guess just to have people yell at me, I'll put it in it sucks. I don't remember it. The ending is cool. If you go into the movie expecting certain things, I think that the movie can surprise you and be pretty cool, so I'll do that. Friday the 13th. This is on the list because it is a remake. Remakes count because they are starting a new series. So hopefully I got all the remakes I could think of that I've seen. It is... I don't know. I'm going to put it in perfectly average, I guess. It's... I don't know. The video probably cut there because I was silent for a while. I just don't know what to say about it. It's fine. It's Friday the 13th, but with better cameras. I don't know. Jason is my least favorite of the classic horror things. He looks really cool, and then other than that, I don't know. The lore isn't that interesting to me. The music is great, and I don't just mean the, because I do think that is an awesome sound. But I mean the actual theme, like, that plays is a good theme. I think that you're going to find that in most of the movies. Even Nightmare on Elm Street, which I mentioned, right? I love the lullaby sounding theme that it has. But overall, I just don't think there's much to talk about this movie. It's Friday the 13th. It's a bunch of people getting killed by a guy with a ski mask and a machete. I don't know. It's fine. My Bloody Valentine. I don't remember anything about this movie. I probably should have taken it off the list. I just remember I saw it, didn't leave an impression. I'll put it in perfectly average. Same thing with 28 Days Later. I wasn't able to rewatch every single movie on my list because there were 80-some movies. The Orphan. It's okay. Perfectly average. You'll see that a lot of movies are perfectly average because that's how averages work. But it's fine. The twist is very interesting. I think it was spoiled for me, if I remember correctly. Like, I knew what was going to happen going into it, so that obviously hurts the movie a lot. But yeah, it just didn't do it for me. Pandorum is pretty good, and I think I'm probably going to get some pushback on that, but I love Dennis Quaid, first of all. If you haven't seen the fantastic Dennis Quaid is Here stuff that he did for, what was that, Ellen or something, it is some of the funniest stuff I've seen.
Dennis Quaid is here! Dennis Quaid wants a coffee. I would like to have, what kind of coffee do I want?
I want a spiced latte, decaf.
I want a spiced latte, decaf.
Dennis Quaid is just a very funny, down-to-earth guy, it seems. And I tend to like his characters and performances. But besides all that, this very weird story just did it for me. I don't know. I don't really have too much to say. I just thought the story was interesting. It had I wish there was more surprising stuff in it. It seemed very by the numbers, but it was cool. It was a very new look. I liked it. The Collector. I just watched this recently. And while it probably belongs in pretty good, I'm going to put it in awesome. I had a friend tell me years ago that I was going to really like The Collector, and I just never got around to watching it. I finally did, and he was right. After doing some research on it afterwards, I found out that it was written to be a prequel to Saw, but the producers didn't like it, and they brushed it off, and so they turned it into its own thing called The Collector. And after seeing it, you can definitely see how they were going for prequel to Saw, this guy testing out his traps. There's some torturing involved and stuff. I hope that after they lost the license of Saw, they changed some stuff, because otherwise I can see why it wasn't done as a prequel to Saw, because he basically just torments people to do it, and the traps are more of Home Alone booby traps to stop people from escaping. So I don't think it would have been a very good Saw prequel, I guess is what I'm saying. But as its own thing, I like the story. The basic premise is there is a thief whose wife needs money for a loan shark, so he breaks into the house of the person he's been doing housework for because they're rich. Once he's in there, though, the serial killer, the Collector, shows up and locks the door because he's torturing a family in the house. And then they don't know each other's both in the house at first, and then they start finding it out, and it's kind of this cat and mouse game of a master thief and a serial killer locked in the same house together. And it's really well done. It's really good. I suggest checking it out. The Fourth Kind. I don't remember anything about this movie other than the scene that's on that wallpaper right there with the floating thing kind of creeped me out when I first saw it. But I'm just gonna put in it sucks. I don't remember it at all. I think it's Mia Jovovich, right? And I don't know. It just didn't work for me. Trick or Treat is something I just watched yesterday as well. I think it might have been the day before, but I watched it very recently. And it's kind of overhyped. I'll put it in pretty good. With all my research I've been doing over the last month getting ready to do this video, I've heard a lot of people talk about how Trick or Treat is a modern classic and everything, and I think it's too weird for me. Don't get me wrong, I love the non-linear storytelling. I tend to always when movies do that and they tell you the same events from multiple perspectives, that kind of stuff. I love that kind of stuff. There's even total B movie called Vantage Point about like someone assassinating the president or something, and the whole movie is just it telling you the 10-minute assassination from every character's like point of view. Like you see it from this person's point of view, and then it rewinds, and then you watch all the same events from this person's point of view, and then it rewinds, and you watch, you know, I tend to like stuff like that, and you're like trying to figure out along with all the other characters who is the assassin, right? So I tend to like that. This movie does that. It you know, it's like tells a story, and then it says earlier, and then it says later, and then it says earlier, and then it says earlier, and then it says later, and it like keeps telling all the events in this non-linear way. It's interesting. I just think the story's too weird, and they're not. It's a bunch of, it feels like a bunch of short films that were like mashed together into one story. Like you have the kids going down to the bus thing, you have the guy in his house, you have the weird dad with the like weird vampire stuff, like like the weird werewolf thing. Like it feels like it was a bunch of different stories that like they just mashed together into one movie, and the non-linear stuff was so that they could tell all these stories and try to tie them together when really they don't matter if they're related. You could just watch this film and then this film, you know? So I don't know. It was pretty good. I think it's a bit overhyped. A Nightmare on Elm Street remake. What are you guys gonna do if I do this? Oh, right above the original. I don't think it's great, but I do have, oh, you know what, I forgot, I have notes on like a bunch of these movies because I knew that I was going to forget stuff. So for example, for the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I did write dinner scene, but then I also wrote he hooked a survivor because he put someone on a meat hook in the movie in the basement. I was like, oh, is that where the Dead by Daylight people got the idea from? But let's see, what did I miss? Not much, actually. I have a note on Hostel's ankle cutscene because that scene literally made me squirm and look away. That kind of stuff really gets to me. But so Nightmare on Elm Street, I basically just have the quotes written down that I mentioned earlier because I really wanted to mention those. The one that I didn't mention yet was you really shouldn't fall asleep in class. I think that's a really good line. And that scene where the school classroom just goes like and turns into the dream world. I don't know. Listen, guys, I get it. You have a bit of a warm spot for the original, just a bit of a perfectly acceptable anyway. I think that the remake does do quite a few things right. I do like the design of Freddy. I think the actor is really good. Jackie Earle Haley, I think, does a great job. Again, I think his voice and his more darker tone is fine for me. I tend not to like, you know, the self-referential jokey kind of stuff like the Scream, like I was talking about. So having a more dark Freddy is preferable to me. Also, I'm going to get on a really dark topic right now, so I guess, you know, if you don't want to hear it, that is perfectly acceptable. But I can't stand the argument that fans don't like that they officially made Freddy a child molester, because it makes it hard to root for him. That is such a dumb argument to me. The guy is a serial killer murderer who kills kids. Like, voting for him was already not okay. Like, that's already like a thing that you just have to accept as a person, that you find this macabre thing funny and entertaining and stuff. That's fine. I'm not judging you for that. I'm just saying you're already standing on that line. And then you're saying this one little change that is already kind of, you know, supposed to be in the original. Like, I think I heard it actually was in the original, and then it was taken out because, like, one of the producers or something was like, hey, that's too far. Like, this just happened recently in, like, real life, so we're not going to do that. Like, I remember hearing something like that, but regardless, even if that's not true, you're already standing on that line of saying, I like watching this guy who, like, jokes about sexual assault and has a history of killing kids. And I don't mean like the 30-year-old kids in the movies. I mean like his actual backstory of when Freddy Krueger died, of him like killing children, you know, and stuff like that. Like, you're already on that line. So to say, oh, now they officially say that he touched kids, now I can't root for Freddy, like, that is such a dumb argument to me. So I get it. Freak out on me in the comments, I guess, but I just can't stand that argument. So anyway, all that besides, I think that explaining the lore is done better in this movie with the micronaps and stuff like that. They actually explain why that stuff is happening and why Freddy can kind of start interacting with the real world is because your brain passes out while you're awake. Like, basically, it's a really interesting actual scientific thing that they go into there. He has iconic quotes in this one to me. That by far Freddy's best quotes are in this movie to me. And again, I just think the dark, gritty take on Freddy is what that franchise needed. For me, as someone who does not like that humor style, I get that one of the things that makes Freddy different from like Michael Myers and, you know, Jason is he has this over-the-top clowny persona. I just don't care about that persona, and so I prefer this one. I don't know if I would actually like put it over this, but I do think in general I slightly prefer the remake over the original. That's not to say that like Dream Warriors isn't better, because I need to rewatch it. I don't remember. But yeah, anyway, I'll spend an hour talking about that movie. Devil is perfectly average. I like the idea. I think the acting is good. A bunch of people are stuck in an elevator, and one of them might be the devil. Okay. Is that Sam? No, that's M. Night Shyamalan. I was like, I think this is a famous director as well. I don't know if it's actually him or he's just a producer, but Shyamalan was involved in Devil somehow. Okay, the Fright Night remake. This is tough for me. I'm going to put it in perfectly average. I could see myself putting it in pretty good, but it is so inferior to the remake, it's crazy. Like, it's just not even close to me. So yeah, I think Anton Yelchin, you know, lost too early. He was a great actor, and I think he does good in here. I think that Colin Farrell looks like a freaking vampire, so I think he's fine casting. I love David Tennant, and I think what he does with the character is fun and interesting, but I saw the remake when it came out, so I saw that one first, technically, but I didn't really remember it, so I watched the original, and then I rewatched the remake, and David Tennant's Peter Vincent just doesn't even come close to the original. Again, the original Fright Night's Peter Vincent's one of my favorite like movie characters. Now, I loved him. And so yeah, if you watch them back to back, I think you can really see how the remake is completely missing the charm and the heart of the original, I think. So that's me. Cabin in the Woods is pretty good. Again, satire. I don't really get into that. Its idea is really cool with the different boxes. We're testing people, blah, blah, blah. The fact that they explain all the kids' behaviors by, like, drugging them and gassing them and stuff like that. And so that's why, like, the hot girl becomes a bimbo and people want to just do drugs and have sex. Stuff like that. They explain all this tropes in a pretty clever way. But at the end of the day, satire just doesn't do it for me in general. So, Cabin in the Woods, it's pretty good. Sinister, I liked a lot when it first came out, but it has dropped a bit. I'm going to put it in pretty good. I love Ethan Hawke. I have a weakness for Ethan Hawke. When he does stuff, I like it. I liked the lore here. I liked the story. I liked the characters. Again, that's important to me. But at the end of the day, it's not some crazy iconic thing that I'm always like, oh my god, have you seen Sinister? It's just not. So I'm going to put it in pretty good. Evil Dead I actually just watched. I saw Evil Dead Rise before I saw this one. And it's hard for me. I think Man, am I gonna... I'll put it in awesome, I guess. This one's hard for me. My heart wants to put it in pretty good. I think it was a bit overhyped for me. So I'm gonna... It's hard, man. It's a very well done movie. I think that if I'm just judging on its own movie, I think it is pretty awesome. I think the problem is it has to stack up against Evil Dead 2, which it just doesn't even come close to me. It's really missing that Bruce Campbell, weird jokey side. My favorite scene in the whole Evil Dead franchise is when he finally mentally breaks in Evil Dead 2 and like all the furniture and stuff is laughing at him and he just starts laughing too, like like I love that scene. And this movie is missing that kind of idea. The characters are pretty good, I will say. There was definitely time put into understanding the characters and stuff, and like when certain characters die, you genuinely feel bad because you're like, oh, he was a good guy, you know, and stuff like that. And so it's sad to see good people die in horror movies. They're usually idiots or assholes, and to actually see like someone who was only a decent person the whole movie die, you know, is pretty sad. So yeah, I think that the end of the movie feels nothing like the rest of the movie, like directing style, acting style. Like the scene when the bad guy is like stabbing through the stuff and the girl is hiding behind it, and like you keep getting like close-ups of her face of like her eye acting and everything. It doesn't look or feel like the rest of the movie at all, and it's very weird. It's good, but there's clearly like the movie goes up until the thing comes out of the ground, and then from then on it feels like it's like a different director and stuff. So I don't know, I'll put it in awesome, but that's only because I'm trying to think of it on its own merit and not as an Evil Dead movie. So I'll do it. I'm gonna do The Grudge now because I don't know where The Grudge goes, but it's probably around here somewhere. I don't know, it doesn't suck, so I guess I'll put it in perfectly average. It has some decent jump scares, and I don't know what that sounds like on mic, but that sound is effective. I'll say that. But it's just kind of forgettable. I don't know. It didn't do much for me. Like I feel like it and The Ring were kind of like seen in the same. I guess it wasn't seen in the same area because I saw The Ring when it came out, and I probably saw The Grudge when it came out. And obviously, with how they've been spaced, they probably didn't come out at the same time. But I don't know. They just feel like they're trying to do similar things, and The Ring does it much better, in my opinion. Okay, The Conjuring. I'm gonna put it in awesome. I'll be honest. I haven't seen it in a while. I don't remember a lot of it, but I remember this being the last movie, like the most recent movie that scared me. Like I was on edge after seeing this movie. I think it is done in such a realistic way that it's creepy in a way that leaves you thinking when you leave the theater or when you turn it off. I've actually heard this movie might be scary to watch at home because of the house setting and everything, right? And I've probably watched it at home, but it's been a long time. So I'm going to put it in awesome, even though I don't remember a whole bunch about it, just because this movie actively affected me. And when it came out, I probably would have said it was one of my favorite horror movies. And I need to rewatch it to be reminded as to why. I also love Patrick Wilson, and isn't Vera Familia? I don't remember how to say her name, but isn't it those two in it? I just can't remember because like I thought it's those two, but then also like aren't they both in Insidious or something too? So I get that confused sometimes. But yes, The Conjuring, I love that movie. The Purge, I'm gonna put in pretty good. I think this movie gets hated on quite a bit. Like again, similar argument to the Hellraiser thing. People say, oh, what people want in a Hellraiser movie is more Cenobites. Completely disagree. That is not the point of the Hellraiser movies. It is a beautiful cherry on top of a well-made cake. That is what the Cenobites are. The Purge, similarly, I hear a lot of things about the home invasion idea is boring. We want to see a movie like out on the streets during the Purge. I'm not against seeing a movie out in the streets during the Purge, but I disagree that I think what is much more interesting is this very intimate story of a home invasion during it and what these people are going to do. Like, how do they get out of it and stuff? I don't know. So, again, Ethan Hawke. I have a total weakness for Ethan Hawke. He does a good job here. I think it's pretty good. I think it gets too much hate now, which is funny because I think most people don't even like the rest of the Purge movies. So you got what you wanted and it sucked. Told you. You know, this is the good movie. It Follows. I just watched this in the last couple days, and this is hard for me. I think I'm gonna put it in pretty good. I feel like I should put it in awesome because it is. I'm gonna move it to awesome. It is so well done. The problem is I don't find the story that interesting. The like, you know, oh, is it like supposed to be a like stand-in for like STDs and stuff? Like, it's just like I don't care about that message that it's trying to give personally. But if you just look at it on its own merit, it's a very creepy and well done movie. This person, it's the kind of the story of the snail, right? Like everyone's heard the story of the, you know, what if a snail was following your entire life and if it ever caught up to you, it killed you, right? That would be very unnerving because it's a snail. You could just move to another country, right? But eventually, that snail is going to find you, and you have no idea when or where that's going to happen, right? And so that's the basic idea of It Follows. There's this entity that follows people, and if it ever reaches them, they die. And the only way to pass on to someone else is to have sex with them. And the interesting twist that I wasn't expecting the movie to do is it's kind of like Final Destination in a way, to where when they pass it on, they're not free of it. They're just not next anymore. So like if person A is being haunted and they have sex with person B, and then person B has sex with person C, if the entity ever kills person C, they will then start going after person B again. I did not think that's how it was going to work, and that is a very cool version of the lore, because now, once it's haunting you, you're never safe for the rest of your life. Because you can pass it on, sure, but what if they fail at passing on and they get killed? Or what if it gets passed on 30 times? Eventually, it's going to make its way down that list, and you have no idea when it's going to catch up to you and get you. So yeah, I think that the lore there was much better done, and some of the scenes, the rules don't exactly start making sense to me once they start actually interacting with the thing. Because so the thing is invisible. Only the people who are being haunted by it can see it, but they can interact with it. Like at one point someone hits it with a chair and the chair breaks, and then the thing throws them across the room, and it's like, oh, so we can interact with it. Like, it's really there. It's not just like in the person's head haunting them. It is an actually there, actually invisible thing. So the rules start getting a little weird when you get into that aspect of it, but it's a very well done movie. I cannot argue that. It was effective. It was creepy. I'll put it in awesome. Let's see. Babadook didn't do anything for me, guys. I'm massively in the minority there, and it might be because, man, dude, my heartburn's killing me. I apologize. This was my one chance to do this. It might be because the first time I saw this movie, I think I've only seen it twice, but the first time I saw this movie, the whole single mother psychology thing that went into it completely went over my head. I didn't even get that it was like, oh, the Babadook's not really there. It's like just the outward, perspective of what a single mother thinks of her failing her family. Like, evidently that's what the movie's about, and I just didn't get that at all on my first watch. And maybe I've only seen it once, because I feel like then I would have got it on my second watch and I didn't, so maybe I've only seen it once. But yeah, it was okay. There's not really much to talk about it. I don't know, sorry guys. I know that this was kind of regarded as a modern classic when it came out. I don't think so. The Witch was pretty good. I think this one suffered from being overhyped. Like, people were just talking about how The Witch is incredible, and I was like, okay, I'll check it out. And I watched it, and it was interesting. I don't know, it was pretty good. It's definitely closer to average than awesome. So, I don't know. I really don't have much to say about The Witch. It's cool seeing Anya Taylor-Joy in one of her earlier roles, because I like her, and I don't know, that's cool, I guess. Mention her again in a second, actually, for that same reason. But I don't know. I don't have anything intelligent to say about The Witch, so I'll just say it was pretty good. It didn't leave a lasting impression on me. Okay, Split is awesome. I talk about a movie that was overhyped and yet somehow exceeded expectations. People kept telling me how this thing's amazing. It's so good. It's like the greatest thing ever. And I was like, okay, I'll watch it. I saw this movie a long time after it came out, so somehow stuff wasn't spoiled for me, which I guess there's not that much to spoil. But yeah, talk about like James McAvoy, just like career-defining performance for me so far. I haven't seen all of his work. A very interesting story of this. I think it's DID. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to be offensive by not getting it correct. I'm not correctly educated in that. I'm trying not to say stuff like schizophrenia, because I don't know what's what here. I think I've heard DID used the most. Dissociative identity disorder, something like that, but I don't know what's the proper term, so you guys can correct me if you are more educated on me. But that story, and then to see where that character goes, and honestly, I'll be honest. The main thing here is the incredible acting performance in an interesting story of this kidnapping. Like, some of the stuff in the movie is pretty boring and stereotypical, but the stuff that's done right is done perfectly. So, I loved it. Okay, It. The first one. I don't know if it's awesome. I'm gonna put in awesome over pretty good. They did a very good job of making Pennywise creepy and feel original, even though a lot of it was retreading. You know, it didn't feel like it. I have not seen the original all the way through. I've basically seen it all just through clips, you know, and watching videos on it, but I've never actually sat and watched it all the way through. So I didn't have that kind of bar set going into it. I just wanted a cool, creepy movie, and they gave me a cool, creepy movie. So I say, good job. It Part 1. It's awesome. Life is a massively underrated movie. I'm going to put it in pretty good for now and think about if I'm going to move it up to awesome. No. Life is a story of a bunch of astronauts in space. They find a new life form. They're very excited about this, and the life form starts growing very quickly and starts acting aggressively. And it is really good. The cast here is great. I love the idea. So yeah, I think this is kind of an underrated gem, honestly. So let's see. A Quiet Place. I'm gonna put this one in. I'm gonna put this one wherever it just disappeared to. Where'd it go? Oh, it's right there. Yeah. So I don't know. When it first came out, I was pretty big on A Quiet Place, but I have seen it multiple times, and I think overall, it's a good idea with a good execution. I don't think either are great. So I'm gonna put it in pretty good. It's definitely worth watching. I haven't seen any of the other ones yet. I haven't seen Part 2, and I haven't seen... Isn't there like a prequel or something that just came out? I haven't seen any of the other ones. I've only seen the first one, and it's pretty good. The cast is good. The story is good. The opening is great. And the lore with these sound-sensitive creatures. It's all very good. But I don't have a tier called very good, so it's going to go in pretty good. Annihilation. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put it in pretty good. This movie is... I almost want to put it in awesome only because this is how you write good female characters. This is like the epitome of strong female leads that don't need to be made up as some extremely unrealistic, perfect female, but also isn't just like always relying on a man to save her. You know, like it's like some dumb, poorly written thing. Like, these characters are all completely believable, well-acted, strong, independent women. And they don't every other sentence say, I'm a strong, independent woman. So I almost want to put it in awesome just for that. It's so well written with the characters. This is going to sound kind of funny coming from me, from anyone who really knows me, but I just found the story a little too confusing. Like, I was just like... I've seen it 2 or 3 times, and I've also, like I said, I always watch like behind-the-scenes stuff and try to like watch like... video essays on like people's opinions on movie stuff afterwards, and like even after all that, I'm still sitting there, I'm just like, so like what was this movie? Like, I don't know, it was just very strange, but I liked it. It's a very interesting take on that type of story. All the actors do really well. So yeah, I don't know, it's pretty good. I recommend seeing it. I think it kind of flew under the radar, and you should probably watch it. Okay, talk about another one that's completely overhyped. Where'd it go? Oh, Blair Witch Project? You were not up there. I think you were here. So, no, I only had Hostel down there. This must have been here. Hereditary is the epitome of overhyped, unfortunately. Everyone said it's like the best horror movie to come out in the last fucking 15 years or something. I don't know. And when I finally watched it, which was a long time after release, multiple years, I think, after release. I think I saw it earlier this year, actually. It was fine. I didn't find it that interesting, the story they were trying to tell, and I thought the ending was kind of boring. Oh, okay, that's how we're gonna end the story. Okay, whatever. Like, that's like how I was after it ended. So I don't know. It's well shot. It's well acted. It's fine, and I will bump it up to pretty good because I think that there's something here that I'm not seeing, that just everyone loves this movie, and I definitely won't put it in awesome, but I will bump it up to pretty good for saying that it probably does something that just goes over my head, and I can accept that. Okay, Invisible Man. I just watched this movie earlier this week. This movie is awesome. It almost goes in so good. What a fantastic take on this idea. Like, so it's telling the story, the basic story of the mad scientist Invisible Man, but doing it in this horribly realistic way of this person who's had to put up with domestic abuse and stuff like that, and them trying to get out of this, and like meanwhile people are starting to wonder if anything actually happened because she's being haunted by an invisible man. So like there's no way to prove it. So like, is this actually just all in her head and stuff? Like, it's what a well done movie, man. And the cinematography here, where before I saw the movie, I did hear people talk about this in some video a long time ago, where they were talking about, and I noticed it while watching, like the camera will be in weird positions, you know, like usually, let me pull my camera up so I can see myself. Usually when you're filming a shot, you know, there's the rule of thirds and stuff like that, right? With the camera, like you want to be centered, you want your eye line on one of the lines, and like if two people are in it, you want like one person on one line, one person on another line, right? Like there's cinematography rules that like you tend to attach to. And that movie constantly does this thing where like one person will be in the shot, but they'll be like over here talking and stuff, and it'll be like, why is it shooting it this way? And it gives you this unnervedness that the camera is focused on two people. You just can't see the second person. It does it a lot in the movie where the camera's just slightly off of where it is, or someone's doing something in the foreground and the camera just seems, your eyes are more drawn to the background because of how the set dressing and the lighting and the cinematography is done, that your eyes are more drawn to the background, but there's nothing happening in the background. Or is there something happening in the background that you just can't see? The movie is so good at that stuff that it bumped it up to awesome for sure. So watch The Invisible Man if you haven't. Underwater, I just watched, and I won't put it in awesome, but I'll say it's pretty good. I liked the story they told. I honestly think it would have made it to awesome, except that the third act of the movie is like, how many like cliches can we fit into this movie? Like, it's like every character's line in the third act of the movie is like, I'll be right back. One of us has to sacrifice ourselves to do it. No, I won't. Like every single line in every single scene in the third act was like, how many cliches can we fit into this movie? And it started like grating. I was like, guys, you have done so good up till now. So yeah, I unfortunately did have some of the stuff spoiled for me. I messaged my brother after seeing it, and I was like, dude, this is gonna be one of your favorite movies, I think. Just watch the movie blind, please. Don't watch any trailers or anything. Please watch the movie. I don't know when he'll get a chance to do that, but I think he'll like it. You know what I mean. Okay, Black Phone. This one it's definitely at least pretty good. I liked it quite a bit. The lore is very interesting, and the characters are good. It just didn't have a lasting impression on me. I would really like to see, I don't even think it's possible, you know, if you've seen the movie, but I'd like to see more in the universe to kind of really get me in that world and that mindset, because I don't think this movie did enough for me to do that, to bump it up to awesome. It's cool though. Again, Ethan Hawke. I like Ethan Hawke a lot. He does unfortunately tend to pick mediocre movies. I am not saying this is one of them. This was a good movie. But I don't know, there's just something about this movie that it didn't stick with me. I watched it, I was like, oh wow, yeah, that was good. And then I haven't talked about it since, so I will put it there. Barbarian is so close to going in awesome just because of how much, like, just twist after twist after twist after twist. Like, you're like, what is happening in this movie? I think I'll bump, oops, oh my god. I think I will bump it up to awesome, because this movie just, it really takes you on a ride and you have no idea what's around every corner, and it does a really good job with that. Sure, it is weird as hell when you get into it, and some of the logic doesn't exactly make sense, but it's a wild, fun movie, and that's what I could ask for from it, right? Okay, the Hellraiser remake. I think I'll put it in awesome. I can't believe how good this is for being a 35-year later reimagining of it. It's not as good as the original. I think you're crazy if you say that. But for how not good the other Hellraiser movies are, this was a breath of fresh air. This also kind of did what people wanted, which was it was a movie that focused much more on the Cenobites. Like, there is a story, like a character drama kind of going in there, but everything in that character drama relates kind of to the Hell World and the Cenobites and the Lament configuration. To where, in the first one, I guess that's technically true too, but it doesn't feel like it until you realize it is, So, it's a good movie. It focuses on stuff that people have been wanting. I'm glad you guys got, what you wanted. Here's a Hellraiser movie that really goes all in on the Cenobites and the Hell World. It's good. I'd go so far as to say it's awesome, evidently. But it is not the original Hellraiser. And last but not least, we have Nope, and Nope was pretty good. It is unfortunately the only movie so far of that trilogy of Jordan Peele. Took me a while. I have not seen Get Out yet. It was on my list, but it wasn't on any of the streaming services that I had access to, so it was bumped down in priority because obviously I'm going to watch all the ones I can watch for free first, and I just didn't have the time to get that one in. So I haven't seen Get Out, and I haven't seen Us. So this is the only one of the three that I've seen. And it was good. I was hoping for more from everything I had heard about Get Out, but pretty much everyone admits that Get Out is by far the best of the trilogy, and that this one is a pretty distant second, and then that Us isn't very good. That's what I haven't talked to anyone yet who has a different opinion than that. So yeah, I don't know. It was pretty good. But that is all 83 movies and 3 TV shows, I guess, that I ranked. So I just wanted to talk about horror movies. I don't usually do this. The Gamer Shelter is, of course, a gaming channel, and it's not going to magically become a movie channel, but I am a bit of a cinephile, and I wanted to talk about something that I liked, and it's October, so let's talk about some horror movies. So yeah. You can see Halloween, Hellraiser, and Fright Night. Oh, and Frighteners. Those are my 4 that I would say, please watch. They're so good. And then these 3 TV shows. Other than that, we got some really good classics. We got some perfectly average movies. And we got some not great ones. I honestly could bump Hostel up to just it sucks, but it's fun to have one yikers. Once we get into the sequels, there's going to be a lot more yikers and not so many so goods. So I'm glad that it was the opposite this way. But yeah, anyway, let me know any movies that I haven't listed, meaning I probably haven't seen it or don't regard it as horror. And let me know, and I will try to check those out. Like I said, Candyman, Psycho, and Get Out are all very high on my list. Insidious as well, I have not seen. So trust me, I will try to get to it. I will make a video of all the sequels at one point, but that won't be out in time for Halloween. There's no way. So yeah, thanks if anyone just stuck around listening while you're at work or something. I hope you guys had a good enough time. And I am gonna peace out and probably start watching some sequels. So thanks guys, I'll see you next time.